But what we do know is, how do you protect yourself against it? With gold and silver, because it goes up during times of crisis and inflationary pressures, and it actually protects you. So first and foremost, look at gold and silver as your insurance policy against a collapsing currency.
Another amazing week for us. It just doesn't get any easier, but I tell you what, exposing the deep state and their evil through the Southern Poverty Law Center was the big one this week. Dr. Kirk Elliott, while this is all playing out, we continue to watch silver make moves. And man, we just appreciate it. amweknow.com/gold in the description box below. And we thank you once again for joining us, Dr. Elliott.
It's so good to be with you as always. And it is wild, LT. It's when I look at everything that's going on, it's like, all right, is this prophetic events playing themselves out? Is this a paradigm shifting moment? Yep. Is it just noise and distraction to distract us from something that's even bigger and weirder than the things that we're seeing? Right? Yeah. It's like, I don't know. But what I do know is it's all in front of us. Right. Yep. So when you look at it, everyone's concerned about the price of oil, what's happening in Iran, Southern Poverty Law Center, all this stuff. And really what a lot of this boils down to is I want to not talk about any of that. Mm-hmm. I want to just talk about our money, right? Because I'm an economist, right? And I help people invest for their retirements, and everyone's always concerned. It's like, what are the three big F's, right? Faith, family, and finances, right? And in that order, they should be in that order. If they're not, you've got things out of whack, right? So faith, family, finances, right? So it's one of the three big F's. And so when you look at what's been happening, years ago, literally years ago, you and I talked about the emergence of the BRICS nations, and was it about control? Was it about taking over the US dollar? Was it about taking over the world's manufacturing? What was it, right? And really it's a political power block to kind of unseat the United States, right? Which is why way back I was in grad school in the early 90s, and this was a little bit after the European Union had formed, right? It's like, why did Germany and France and all of these countries, Spain, converge into the European Union? Is because they needed a power block politically and economically to kind of compete against the United States.
Right.
So you look at what's happening with the BRICS nations. Why did they do it? Well, they're doing the same for the same reason that the European Union did, because India, massive population. China, massive population, right? But these economies, they were still kind of like just, they were just kind of like communist countries and socialist countries, and they weren't really all that powerful, although they had a ton of people. So they put together a trading bloc, an economic bloc, and started to form this economic political union to where we see it today.
Right.
It's about power and control, and it's about money, right? So when you look at what the BRICS nations have done, they're revolting against the dollar order, right? Which is, to put it in other words that you and I have said, it's the de-dollarization of the world. Nobody wants the US dollar, and not even Warren Buffett wants the US dollar, and he's an American. It's like, what is going on in this world, right?
Yeah.
So how did they do this? This isn't a new thing, right? So you go back to, a decade ago, right? Let's go back a decade. What did they start putting together? They've already started working on electronic payment messaging systems in Iran, of all places, right? CPAM, it's SEPAM. It's their system for electronic payments messaging. Now you add that to the structured financial messaging system. You add that to CIPS, which is China's cross-border interbank payment system. What is all that to do?
Yeah.
To get these countries talking electronically, economically, to get rid of SWIFT.
Right.
What is SWIFT? It's the mechanism where all money goes from bank to bank globally. Like when you send a wire, it goes through the SWIFT system. When you send a wire internationally, there's actually a SWIFT code, right? So the global transfer of money has always been dominated by the West, by Europe and the United States. China's wanting to change this, right? So this goes back to the Russia-Ukraine conflict when it started, which has really accelerated this because Biden was a buffoon and he did something that was economically devastating when he said, hey, Russia, we're going to kick you out of the SWIFT system and we're going to starve out your population, right? So you're not going to get any money in. Well, did he really think that Putin was that stupid and not have plan B? So right. Putin went to China and said, China, Biden kicked us out of the SWIFT system. China says, so what? We have SIPs. Why don't we just like really tie economically together under the BRICS nations? And so it amounted to a problem for Russia for maybe 30 minutes, right? It's like, okay, not a problem, right? So, but what they're doing is they're taking the financial control for most of the world's population away from the West. This is how they are de-dollarizing it, right? And this is the problem that Western banks have, because when you don't control the money, you don't control people. Right. So this is where it's all headed. Now you've got central bank digital currency that we've talked about. This is the central banker's way of saying we're still going to maintain control of people. Right? We're still going to basically have digital social profiles and social credit scores, and we're going to be able to tie you to how you spend your money, what your habits are, what your worldview is politically, religiously, economically. And if we don't like it, we're cutting you off. And so then comes Bitcoin and the decentralized blockchain. And now this is a counterbalance to all of that. And what Trump wants to do with stable coins and having stable coins on the blockchain, it's pulling it away from central bank control. You see, what Trump is doing is fighting this economic battle. And everyone thinks he's just fighting this battle against Iran or right. against the left and the hardcore left or against China. It's like, Trump is fighting a battle to save the dollar from the world who doesn't want the U.S. dollar around. Right? And he's doing a good job at it, right? So here's where, remember Judy Shelton when she was one of Trump's economic advisors in the first administration. She was nominated, and there was a lot of people talking about her being the next Federal Reserve chair, and she didn't make it, right? They actually tried to really attack and demolish her family, and it's like, and so now there's somebody else, right? But what was she? What did she believe in? She believed in sound money. She believed in gold-backed currency, right? And so if this is who Trump was talking about having control of the Fed, what does Trump believe in? Same thing. He wants sound money. He wants a strong currency, right? And away from this central bank control. So she did this interview recently that was just posted. And there's a couple sections. It's worth everybody watching the whole thing. It's actually fascinating. Well, I happen to be a self-proclaimed economic nerd, right? So I thought the whole thing was amazing, right? There's a couple sections in there that I want to point out to all the we knowers out there, because I think when you understand her heart, you actually understand Trump's heart when it comes to money.
Awesome. Yeah.
So I would love to watch that.
Okay. Yeah, we got a couple of sections. Just tell me when to pause on this first one. Well, here we go.
Okay.
If they did see today's system, would they even recognize it?
I think they would be appalled, and probably James Madison the most, because he was so clear on that. He said a depreciating currency is just like stealing property and therefore unconstitutional. The government cannot expropriate without due process. And instead they do it in this way where they chisel a little bit. Why? What's the justification? How is that possibly even consistent with the mandate of stable prices? At best, the Fed is seeking stable inflation. But that's an oxymoron. It's not stable prices.
So the question was, would the founding fathers even recognize our money today? And you know, when you go back to what James Madison, some of the founding fathers said, what was money back then? It was actually gold or silver, right? This is what the Constitution says, right? It's like gold and silver coinage are the only true money, right? And so they warned against where America is today. They said never, ever, ever should politicians write bills that cost money that can't be paid off during that generation, because it's not fair to future generations. So what did we do? When they couldn't abide by that way back in the early 1900s, it's like, wait, we want to expand further. We want to use debt to expand. Oh, how about the Federal Reserve? Let's just start that, where we can print money without discretion, not have it gold backed anymore, not have some kind of tangible backing, which puts discretion on the printing, and they could just print willy-nilly. So then it's easy for politicians to just march over to the Fed and say, hey, you need to buy more of our U.S. treasuries, because we need U.S. treasuries to fund our expansion. And it's all debt, right, with money that's being created out of thin air. This is what happens when you get away from a tangible currency. And this is what Judy Shelton is talking about. They would not understand. They would be rolling over in their graves if they saw what we had now, because one of the mandates, there's two mandates that the Federal Reserve has. Number one is to create full employment. And number two is to create a stable economy. The only thing that they've done, LT, is create stable or unsustainable, not stable, but constant inflation.
Yeah.
I mean, that's all that they've done.
That's right.
And there's boom and bust cycles, and they print too much, and then they have to decide, all right, we're going to have to raise interest rates to slow that down. And then the economy, just slows down too much. It's like, well, how about we lower interest rates to stimulate it again? And it's just this vicious cycle, right? Which would all go away if you never got rid of tangible backed, gold backed money. We wouldn't have that problem, right? So the system right now is broken. Right, it's absolutely broken. So something needs to change. And we talked about this 2 weeks ago. Is the change going to be going to gold-backed money, or is the change going to be going to cryptocurrency? Don't know. All we do know is it's not going to stay the same. So a lot of times people will say there's going to be this monetary reset, right? And people get all excited about that. It's like, and conspiracy, people say, well, that's a conspiracy theory. It's like, it's not a conspiracy theory. Resets happen all the time.
Right.
And I can tell you probably 4 times. Okay. So we used to have Confederate dollars, right? And so then we went to gold-backed money, and then we went to the Federal Reserve, and then we went to the Bretton Woods system, and then we took gold off of our money altogether, and then we went to the petrodollar. Every single one of those could be considered a reset.
Yeah.
But nobody would say that that's actually reset. They'd say, oh, it's just a change. No, that's a reset. So she's saying right now, something needs to be reset because the system is broken. What does that mean? And so we're going to watch and see what she says.
All right.
As I neared the end of my time with Judy, I couldn't help but wonder, what's at risk if the monetary reform she spent her life advocating for, making the dollar as good as gold again, doesn't happen?
I think what's at risk is this sense of people increasingly that they are victims of monetary favoritism, that the Fed maintains policies that increase the inequality of wealth and income, that they reward people who are already wealthy enough to have financial assets. I think we need a revolution of valuing honest work, honest government, and honest money. And by that I mean celebrate people who actually make goods, who produce goods and services, not just people who arbitrage the anomalies of financial markets. I think we have to insist on honest government. I think deficit spending is unacceptable. That's immoral, because you're robbing from future generations. You're putting liens on goods that have yet to be produced, and it just enhances the likelihood of ever increasing government. And I think that we need to guarantee honest money.
And with that, our conversation ended.
Wow.
So, does that sound like a conspiracy theory?
Nope.
I mean, what did she say? Basically, she said, "Make America great again." In other words, let's reward people for working hard.
Amen.
Let's create sound money.
Yeah.
Let's create a fabric where there's not this arbitrage, where the central banks who claim that they're out for full employment and everything, what did she say that they do? It actually creates inequality.
That's right.
Right. So when you have something as simple as gold and silver, it's the great equalizer. Right? Because it protects you against the inflationary boom and bust cycles that the Federal Reserve brings, right? When you have it. So let me give you an example, right? So back in the early 1900s, 1 ounce of gold, so all of you like coin collectors, right? You'll have these old Liberties or St. Gaudens from the early 1900s, and on there it says $20. That was the face value. Now they're a collectible coin, right? Which I don't sell collectible coins. I would never do it because you don't actually get out of it. But it's what it was worth back then was $20. 1 ounce of gold or a $20 bill, equally interchangeable. So what would that buy you, right? This is the purchasing power of what we're looking at.
Right.
$20 or 1 ounce of gold would buy you a finely tailored men's suit, a shirt, a tie, a belt, and shoes, right? So it's a lot. Fast forward to today, $20, you're lucky to get out of Chick-fil-A for less than $20. But 1 ounce of gold at somewhere between $4,000 and $5,000 an ounce would still buy you a finely tailored men's suit, a shirt, a tie, a belt, and shoes, right? It has, and then some, right?
No, that's right. That's right.
Totally maintained its purchasing power. This is why she says that going back to stable, sound money, like a gold-backed currency, is the great equalizer. It removes the inequalities that inflation brings. And so how do you protect yourself against these stupid inflationary policies of printing money without discretion? You invest in something that goes up during times of inflation, which would be a tangible asset. All things go up with inflation. I don't care if it's groceries or eggs or bicycles or gold or silver or oil or whatever. It just happens to be an easy thing to purchase to protect yourself. First and foremost, it's your insurance against a collapsing dollar, which is why we started the show. What did the BRICS nations want to do? Destroy the dollar.
Yeah.
Trump is up against a lot of political headwinds here, right?
Yeah.
And ultimately, we can hope and pray how it turns out, but in the end, we don't really know how it's going to go for the dollar short and medium and long term. But what we do know is, how do you protect yourself against it? With gold and silver, because it goes up during times of crisis and inflationary pressures, and it actually protects you. So first and foremost, look at gold and silver as your insurance policy against a collapsing currency. Secondarily, it happens to grow amazingly well during times like this, but it's like you're fulfilling a dual mandate in your own portfolio, growth and safety, all at the same time.
Yeah,
which is, I wish every policymaker would think like Judy Shelton.
Yeah, amen.
I mean, what she said was so reasonable. I can't believe that people grilled her when she was, sitting for the Fed chair. It's like, oh, you're crazy. What? Nothing that she said sounded to me like anything that was radical, even off the wall. It was just wisdom.
That's right.
It was just wisdom. That's all that it was.
Yep. But we know that these folks that are behind the scenes that control us, they love their Federal Reserves. And I gave you that list I showed you on the cue board that we follow. Rothschild's control of all the central banks around the world. That laundry list is so long. And my favorite quote in that Q drop, in the Q drops, is gold will destroy the Fed. So how about getting on top of gold? We're being told that, and most of us do understand it. And you told us that a few weeks ago. And that's the important thing. And I think she's onto it. And my hope is that she'll be a part of this in the future. That's for sure.
I sure hope so. And when you showed me that list,
Yeah.
it's shocking to see how from one family,
Yeah.
the Rothschild family, it's about 90% of
Yeah.
all the banks in the world.
That's right.
I mean, that's a lot of accumulated hidden wealth, right?
That's right.
From
That's right.
one family, right? That's too much control concentrated in one place. So you don't have to buy into that system. Oh yeah, we all have banks, but be your own bank. Have your own gold and silver. Be out of the system. Be out of that digital system. Have
Amen.
something that's real and tangible. And you know what? You can have a smile on your face. And all of this noise, everything that we hear about right now, financially, economically,
Mhm.
not going to bother you. It's not.
Amen. Amen. We're so glad we brought our IRA over to you back when it was about $20 an ounce. Now we're looking at close to 80, and it's we've been just watching changes in our own life. Many people have told us that they came over to you, Dr. Kirk Elliott, and their lives have changed. Many on the cruise ship told us, hey, thank you. Tell Dr. Kirk Elliott, thank you. He has changed our life and our future forever. And so again, just that reminder for folks, amweknow.com/gold. Below this video, click on that, and you'll be able to have your life change forever. Thank you so much, Dr. Kirk Elliott. We appreciate you.
It's my pleasure.